Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Raphael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Raphael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Doris, thank you so much for joining me on Coaching Call. How are you this morning?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk to you. And I found out that you're a mother of 4 children, and man, God bless you. That is a beautiful thing.
Thank you. And I'm celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday to my oldest. Her name is Justice, and she turns 20 years old today.
Wait a minute, but you're 20. How's that possible?
I know. It's an interesting concept, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, congratulations. I love that name too, Justice. Wow.
Yes, very special name. And I named her before I knew whether she was going to be a girl or a boy.
Really?
So it's always been Justice. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. We'll have to get into that. And then, now I'm curious, what are the other names of your children?
So she's the only one with a J name. So I have Dion, Dorian, and Davion.
Oh,
and each one of their names has a significant meaning. My husband's name is Dion, so we went with all D names. But yeah, they all have a special name. But yeah, we have Dion, Dorian, and Davion.
And how old is your youngest?
My youngest is 5, so I have one that will be a kindergartner this August.
Wow, look at you.
You're like in shock. It's just shocking for me too.
Well, not really.
The interesting thing. Yeah. Once I did the math, I still found it to be shocking. So I have one that would be a senior in August, one that would be a 6th grader, and one that would be a kindergartner.
Beautiful. So you get to relive everything again, if you will, right?
Yeah, I tell people what's interesting about my parenting journey is I'm able to experience children at different stages, but at the same time. So it's not like I have to remember what it was like when one was in middle school or having one in elementary, because I get to experience it all at the same time. And what you learn in that is that you can't please everyone.
You cannot please, and that is very well said. But there's so many people in the world that try, and they're people pleasers, and they wind up being the most miserable people in the world.
Definitely.
Everybody.
No, so I'm lucky enough to learn that lesson in my own home every day. So it definitely helps me to not focus on people pleasing. You have to be a little bit, I think people are too uncomfortable with being disliked. And yes, sometimes I have to make decisions that may favor one person or maybe more appropriate for this age group. And then I may have a couple of bored teenagers there because they don't want to do that. And what they learned is how to be adaptable, how to be considerate, and kind of how to wait their turn. Yeah. So there's lessons for everyone in it.
There is lessons. Just on Tuesday, I talked about family fun and how we have to to have the best experience for family is to sit down together and make decisions together. Do you guys do that?
Definitely. We have family meetings and have a lot of good conversation together. And it gets interesting again with the different age gaps, how they all view situations differently.
So let's get to it. Thank you for sharing your with us. I appreciate that. We're going to get into how you named them later on. But
okay.
I want to know, Doris, tell me about little Doris before she was 10 years old. Where'd you grow up and who influenced you? This question always triggers things for me because, I believe before the age of 10, there's so many things that make us who we are, whether we like it or not, right? So tell me, where'd you grow up?
All right. So I grew up in Miami, Florida. So Miami-Dade County. I it's interesting that I have to reference this, but it's an easy reference for some people. A lot of people think of Miami as South Beach or some of the things that they see on TV shows. And I didn't necessarily grow up in that part of Miami. My Miami was much more, again, Dade County, Liberty City. If you've ever watched First 48, which is a TV show about crime and murder happening in neighborhoods, and it walks the journeys of detectives figuring out the crime in the first 48 hours. That's the Miami that I grew up in.
Mm.
So very inner city. And I grew up with my grandmother. So I had relationships with my mother and father, but I grew up with my paternal grandmother. And so when I think about my life before the age of 10, again, not very privileged, very, urban, a neighborhood stricken with poverty, but happy memories. My grandmother would allow us to, um, she had good balance, I think, in terms of she wanted to keep us protected. She made sure that we weren't exposed to a lot, even though we lived in the environment. So I had this opportunity to where I was kind of, if you think about a ship being on the water, but no water getting in it. So I was
Mhm.
in the environment, I was in it, but I was protected in a lot of ways.
That's
I saw a lot growing up in that neighborhood, but I'm grateful for my grandmother who tried to protect us as best as she could in that environment.
nice, nice. I was in Florida earlier this year. One of my sisters passed away, and
My condolences.
oh, thank
Sorry.
you. My feeling was like, wait a minute, am I in America or am I in Havana?
Yeah.
I'm Spanish, right? But even though we're driving and everything I see, all the store signs are in Spanish. I'm like, whoa. And then when we were at the cemetery, I asked somebody, where's the bathroom in English? And they
Hmm.
looked at me like I had three heads. And then I said it in Spanish, and then they relaxed. And then they told me.
Wow.
So then I was talking to my cousin, and I said, what's going on here? He goes, oh, you don't know. They look down upon you if you don't know Spanish. I'm like, really? I'm like, wow. I said, oh, but we're in America. He goes, not here. They don't even care to learn English. I'm like, that's terrible.
Well, I would say this about Miami. Miami is its own entity in itself.
It
Like
is.
people say, people will ask if you're from Florida, and you're like, "No, I'm from Miami." And we all know that Miami is in Florida, but Miami is like its own thing. And so you do have those elements in different parts of the city. It's very, Latin enriched, and it is a melting pot because not only do you have that Latin culture that's prominent there, you have the Caribbean culture that's prominent there also. So yeah, I can believe exactly that happening in certain parts of Miami.
I was a little taken back, to be honest with you. I was like, wow. And I live in New York, and that's talk about a melting pot, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
we have I think all the countries are in New York, represented in New York. It doesn't matter what country you name, somebody from that country lives here, which is beautiful because
Mhm.
we sometimes when you drive through certain neighborhoods, you see the flavor of the neighborhood, right?
That's how I would describe it. Yeah, I visited New York, and you could see it almost evolve into these different cultures as you're traveling the different parts of it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So your grandmother protected you.
Mhm.
That's. But you also said something that even though you were protected, you still were in that submarine or that boat, and you still had your goggles. You were able to see,
Yes.
and you saw a lot of different things. What were some of the things that you say, or you would say that affected you, not immediately, but later on?
Hmm. I noticed some things once I went off to college, and just in the way that just I guarded myself. When you grow up in an inner city or urban environment, the way you adapt to people, your level of friendliness. I remember being taught that you don't show everyone your teeth, meaning you can't appear too friendly, or you can't, smile a lot, because someone may take advantage of you. And so
Mm.
it was little things like that that I grew up learning, and my grandmother teaching me as forms of
Of
protection
protect.
that was able to recognize once I was put into a different environment, that maybe, okay, maybe I don't need some of those things now in
Right.
life. I think, again, the older I got, the more I was able to identify the ways that I had naturally set up boundaries about people, that again served me well in that environment, but wasn't as conducive as I moved into other spaces. I think you get wiser, living in the inner city. People think it's funny, but I was robbed at 12
Mm.
at gunpoint by the
Wow.
and to take my earrings and the necklace that I had on at the time.
Huh.
And all I could remember is I thought, this. I, I wasn't as aware as I probably could have been, right? And so then that incident happens to me. So of course now I'm hyper aware of people and when they get close to me. And I don't care how friendly you look, that doesn't mean that you may mean me well. And so yeah, I learned little things like that growing up, especially boundaries with people, that I think it took me a while as I became an adult to relax. I think what I learned about money and poverty inspired me.
Mm.
So I know what it's like to live in lack. I know what it's like to not have. I know what it's like to dream. And so I think those type of things inspired me to, want to go to the high school I went to was about an hour from my neighborhood. So
Mm.
I caught a bus and the train, the Metro Rail, and walked every day to the high school to have a different type of education that positioned me for a full scholarship so that I could go to college. So seeing some of those experiences stirred up these desires and dreams in me that wanted me to have more for my life.
Mm. Powerful. And the fact that you trekked, if you will,
Mhm.
to find what you needed, that you made the effort, because a lot of people, it's convenience why some people don't do what you did, right? People,
Mhm.
they don't they don't value the effort that we have to put in order to get the reward. Right? Let's not overlook what you talked about earlier. You were robbed at gunpoint at
Mhm. 12.
12. Gee, I'm sure they didn't have to put the gun out either, but
They really didn't need a gun. Like when we really think about it.
of course not. Um, and were they similar age? Were they that much older than you? Were they
um,
men?
it was a teen. I
Okay,
remember him as I'm thinking he's a teen, like a teenage boy. So I'm thinking he's about 16, 17.
got it. Yeah, it's interesting when we consider what kids do, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's because they either are following footsteps or somebody told them to do it. Uh, it's very interesting. I was walking home from an alleyway because it was from one block to the other. When it was a dirt alleyway, it was easy. We all did it, right? And in
Mhm.
the middle of it, these boys come up to me. I didn't know they were in a gang, and they grab my shirt and they give me all your money. And out of nowhere, my brother came out, and I didn't know my brother was in a gang either. I didn't know that. So they
Wow.
recognized him, and immediately they let go. What are you doing? Oh, no, no, that's my brother. Okay, sorry, sorry. So I guess he was
Wow.
a better gang than they were. But it's very interesting when kids, and my brother was a kid himself, right? He was
Mhm.
only 4 years older than me. I think I was 9, and
Wow.
he was only 4 years older than me, but he was already in a gang. And for that to happen, it's and you talked about the environment, your grandma protected you. My parents were so overwhelmed, I don't think they had a way of protecting us. I'm number 10 of 12. So
Wow.
imagine that. How do you protect that many kids? So it was pretty interesting when we consider all of the different things that we can do in life, right?
Definitely. And I'm one. So my mother has 9 children, and I am the second child. And so my mother had a big family, and then my dad has 5 of us,
Mm.
and so, but I'm the oldest kind of in the group. I have one older sibling who's now deceased. He
Mm.
passed away. Um, he passed away my freshman year of college.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, being in a big family, you're right. It's hard sometimes as parents to protect. And so I kind of was in a divide and conquer situation without growing up with my mom or my dad. So it was my grandmother and she took care of me and my brother.
Mm. Wow.
Mm.
So when you consider a lot of people, when they're in an environment like you were, like the one I was, church or prayer becomes a big aspect. When did that happen for you?
So I was introduced to church very early, but inconsistently.
Mm.
So we would go sometimes. So I have the memories of being in a youth choir. I have the memories of attending Bible study. I remember being baptized and joining the church. It's just that we were kind of inconsistent. We'd be going strong for about a year, and the next thing you know, we would kind of fall off and go back. So I had this experience of kind of inconsistently going to church. But the great thing about it is the seeds were planted. Um, and they never left me. And so I think my grandmother did a good job of making sure that we were introduced, showing us almost helping us to identify the church almost as a hospital. Like
Mm.
we knew that when we knew when to go there. We
Got
knew where the protected environment was. We knew how to lean on God. So she kind of instilled those things in us at a younger age. And then as I grew older, I was inconsistent for some time. I'm probably in the last 7 years have been the most consistent that I've been in my entire life with regular church attendance and just my relationship with God. Period. But I am grateful for the seeds that were planted earlier because, again, you never forget and you gain an understanding of where faith and spirituality and that connection to the church comes.
Mhm. It's very interesting because there's some people, I always say, even atheists have to believe in something, right?
Mhm.
So it's funny. I have someone who I know who's an atheist, and they always say, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Oh, so you do believe in God?"
So he
Yeah,
does exist, huh?
oh, it's just a saying. I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I think you believe in God. Then why use the words, right?" So
Yeah.
I kind of make fun of them that way. But for me personally, my faith in God has never faltered. The place I speak to God has, right? So I grew up Roman
Mhm.
Catholic, and it just never clicked for me. And I left
Mhm.
the church, read the Bible, threw away the Bible, picked up the Bible, threw it away. I pray every night. I pray sometimes several times during the day. And finally, I went to a Christian church, and I was like, oh, they actually read the Bible in church, and I understand it, and they explain it. I'm like, I found the place. But for me, it's it's the community, and I don't. For me, and I don't want to get too religious, but in the Bible it says that we are made, that He's in us, right?
Mhm. His image. Mhm.
His image is in us, right? So I don't need to go anywhere to talk to Him, but I choose to go somewhere. to congregate, if you will, and have like-minded people, right? Go
I
ahead.
love that you say that. Like, I love that you mention it because I think, and I work very closely with my church, and we're seeing this evolution of people that they're not coming in anymore, and they're tapping more into the relationship versus coming the institution. And and I respect that. Like, I completely respect that. It's about community. It's about what you said. It's about being able to collaborate and fellowship and be in the atmosphere with other people who believe. I grew up more in a Southern Baptist kind of church. I've seen a little bit of Pentecostal, and right now I'm more in a denominational environment. Whereas the focus is just baby, very very biblical focus, not necessarily caught up in a lot of different traditions and practices and those things. We're just biblically focused, and we talk about just doing life together. And
Yeah.
so being able to fellowship, I think that's the piece that some people miss about the institution of it. They think about, the business aspects of it, or, oh, you're giving money. Well, it's in a real building that costs money in order for you to be there. It uses real electricity. Like,
Yeah.
you're still in the real world. So how do you expect this church to function and exist if it isn't funded? But I get everyone's thoughts on that. But I'm like, man, you miss out on the community part of it.
I mean, I love the church I go to. It's called Living Faith, and and it's what a great name too, Living Faith, right?
Mhm.
If you think about it. But like I said, I don't want to get into a religious aspect of it, even though we probably can talk for hours on it, right? But let's get back to you. So you went to college. What was your focus when you went to college?
So before I went to college, I wanted to be an attorney.
Mhm.
And then I got into a car accident my senior year
Mm.
of high school, actually the first day of school.
Wow.
And yeah, first day of school, on the way home from school, and we were in a car accident. And I had an episode of temporary paralysis, and it took me out of school for the first few months in physical therapy. And as I was going to physical therapy, I started out almost on a every other day basis. I started to kind of fall in love with the field. So I thought maybe I want to be a physical therapist. And so I went there and I changed my major, and I said I was going to be a physical therapist. That lasted for about 2 semesters because I'm not necessarily great at science. And so then I switched my major. And again, college is about exploration. I changed my major about 5 or 6 different times
Mm.
before graduating with a degree in sociology. And so it was in those moments that I recognized that I was really passionate about people, um, how we operate, how we see the world. I took a lot of classes in sociology. I took religion. I took African American studies, which I also have a degree for African American studies. And so by the end of it, I graduated with a sociology degree, and I wanted to be an attorney again. So I had this full circle moment where I started out there. I went through about 5 or 6 different fields. I was a business major at one point, and then I graduated with a sociology degree with the intent to go to law school. So full circle moment.
Nice, nice. Did you ever go to law school?
I did not. I happened to graduate during the recession, and that's when I was kind of applying for law school and going through that process. And I just could not afford to not work because by the time I graduated college, I was a mother of two.
Mm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So come full circle. Let's talk about what's happening with you today, and then we're going to go back, right? So we'll come back and
Okay.
forth because I'm loving your story of growing up in a certain type of neighborhood, going to high school, and going to a specific different type of high school, right?
Yeah, I went to high school in Coral Gables, Florida. So an
Not the
affluent
place you were at
area.
home.
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. It's very interesting. The middle school I went to was way out of my way. And the only reason I went to it was because the one that was near my house, I was threatened by the gangs. And
Wow.
so at the time, I lived with my sister, and you and I did not live with our parents. I didn't live with my parents either. And my sister put me in a school that was further. I had to take a bus. I had to do all these things. Later on, the main gang member is transferred to my school.
Wow.
It was kind of funny, but he didn't bother me at that point. But it was really interesting. And if it was up to me, I would have kept going to the school. The only reason my sister pulled me out is because one day I was leaving school, and literally, as I walked out of school, there's a gate on one side of the building, and the cars, and it's lined up with kids,
Ah.
and they're all showing me their knives. As I walk by, each one just opens their jacket and shows me their knives.
Wow.
It must have been like 200 kids. And I'm walking and I'm walking, I'm looking at all this. And so I said to my sister, oh, by the way, I might have trouble at school. And she went into it. She's like, oh my God. I said, but I'll go tomorrow. She's like, no, you're not going tomorrow. I said, why not? Because they threatened you. I didn't get it. You know, I was in middle school. I didn't get it. But very interesting.
Well, thank God for her intuitiveness.
Yeah. But it's interesting when we do certain things in our lives that project our outcomes later on. Some may be easy, some may be hard, right? And you definitely chose not to take the easy path either. Right? And in school and college, you went from picking 5 different majors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So currently, how do you stand as a wife, as a mother of 4, and in the business world? Why do you do what you do?
Wow.
And
So
wait a minute.
why?
Wait a minute. What are you doing right now? You're showing me your smile. I thought you had told me.
Hey, those are some of the things that I had to remove, that had to fall off of me.
Nice.
Again, they served me in that season.
And you have such a beautiful smile. So definitely
Thank you. Thank you. I
glad that you
appreciate
moved
that.
that out of the way, right?
Thank you. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so that's such a loaded question. The why is huge. I think I start with what's important for me, or the mission that I'm on right now, is a couple of different things. Number one, I'm living in my purpose. And it's one of those things of when God tells you who you are, nobody can tell you anything different.
Right.
And what I believe he has purposed me to do is inspire women, especially women in leadership. I think he's inspired me to, or purposed me to inspire young ladies who may believe or think that one incident defines the rest of their lives. I've had a few moments in life that I thought it was over. I thought that, how do I come back from this? And each time, things have turned out well. So when I think about my why, it's to speak to, again, that young girl who may be considering making that tough decision, as it relates to becoming a mother. My book that I'm releasing, Raising Justice, it starts with me outside of what I thought was an abortion clinic. Because in that moment, I believed that it was something that I couldn't come back from. And I thank God for his divine intervention, that allowed me to see beyond that moment. And I really want to help others be able to see beyond that moment, not only in their personal lives, but also in the business aspect. I've been able to experience a lot of success in my career. When I was working in corporate America, I've been a manager, a district manager, a regional director, and then senior director of leadership development for a major company. And you learn a lot in those different roles about yourself and about others. And what I do now as a leadership coach is really help people again to identify that one moment doesn't define you, right? One moment doesn't define you. And also, you are more than what you do. I've had all those roles, and I was confused for a long time thinking that what I did was who I was.
Mm.
And I want people to understand that it's two different things. What I do is one thing, and who I am is another. So I'm on this mission to really, help women identify that or be able to understand that who they are and what they do are two separate things. Help inspire young ladies to understand that you are not defined by one moment or one situation in your life. And I really want to develop a group of professional overcomers, people who
Mm.
are resilient, people who look at challenges and say game on, and people who are just able to overcome.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful.
So my why is big.
Yeah, I love your why, and understanding your why also serves with your purpose, right? I
Yes.
love the name of your book, by the way,
Thank you.
Justice. Hello, that you're speaking of your daughter right there, aren't you?
Yes, and it has a literal meaning, but it also has a figurative meaning also. So yes, in the book you learned about me raising justice, and I call out these specific experiences in which some of them I thought I was teaching her, and really I think God was teaching me. And so in raising her, it raised me in a lot of ways. And so you hear a lot about my thought process. You hear about the mistakes. Like I try and warn people, this is not an expert parenting book. This is a book about reflection. This is a little bit of hindsight thinking. It's a little bit about suspended judgment in terms of the moments where I paused and maybe didn't react. This is about my attempt to parent in a way that I necessarily wasn't parented. And really, it's a pursuit of almost excellence. It's a pursuit in raising my child in a way that I wasn't raised, and how it took a lot of moments of pausing and doing things differently, or stepping back and allowing her to be who she was, or to be an articulate child, or to express to me in a way that maybe I wasn't able to express to my grandmother growing up, so that I could learn more about her needs. And so I was blessed to have my first child be someone who almost held a little mirror to me and allowed me to see, myself and where I could be better. And so raising justice is again about raising her, but it's also about this pursuit to parent in a way that I wasn't parented. And I believe that everyone can raise justice. And so it's like a little movement, actually.
I love it. So you talked about helping young ladies make the tough decisions.
Mhm.
Are you coaching justice? Because that could be your next book.
Hey, I'm going to jot that one down.
Coaching justice. I like that.
Yeah.
I definitely would love to read your book when it does come out. And we definitely love to have you back on so we can discuss it further.
Thank you.
When you consider you started writing that book, what was your purpose initially when you started that book?
So initially, the book was named Justice Sayings, which is kind of weird to say out loud, but it was Justice Sayings. And really, I was journaling all the questions that she asked me and the things that she said, because when I talked to other parents, some of my friends, they were like, "Your child said what?" Like, she asked you what? And it's like, my child would never ask me that, or they never questioned that. And I'm like, my child does. She questions me in a way. And so I thought it was interesting that she, had this level of boldness and courageousness about her, that I never created this atmosphere where, because I'm mom and your child, you can't say or do certain things. So I think it opened up this world of her being able to challenge me and question me. and never disrespectfully, but always in this introspective way. I remember the first time she said to me, "Mom, why are you lying to me?"
Mm.
and and I just paused, and I'm like, "Did she just call me a liar?" um, but I had told her things that weren't true, and I told her with great intent. In one of the chapters you'll read, we talk about sex, and she's pretty young at this time. And I kind of explained to her, children can't have babies, and you really can't have babies unless you're married. And she accepted it and went on about her business. And then she thought about it more. She saw observed a few things, and she came back to me. She says, "Mom, I, I thought you said that kids can't have babies." And I'm like, "No, the kids can't have babies." She was like, "But isn't Nobi having a baby? Auntie Nobi, my little sister, she was, 16 at the time." And I said, "Yeah." She says, "But isn't she a kid?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she's like, "So kids can have babies?" And she's like, "Why are you lying to me?" and, and so in her challenging way, it made me think about, okay, how do I get better about telling the age appropriate truth instead of trying to put her in this bubble or tell her something doesn't exist, and it's like she's looking over there seeing it exist, and lose trust. And so in the book, you kind of see those type of incidents where she kind of challenged me. So that's how it started out, was just the fact that she questioned me in a way. And when I talked to my friends about it, it's like, my kid has never asked me anything like that. So it started trying to chronicle or document, I would say, some of those experiences.
Wow. So very interesting that she would even ask you that. But let's even consider something, right? I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to astonish not only you, but everybody else. My mom got married at 12.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and I'm
Wow.
Colombian. In Colombia, they didn't have an age limit. I don't know. She didn't have a baby right away. So remember, she had 12, but still, somehow she kept my dad off, I guess, for a while, or I don't know what happened. But then she had 12 right after. But consider the fact that kids were not treated as kids back in the day. And it's not that long ago.
That's
Less than
true.
100 years ago, people were getting married, people were having babies at a young age, which is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody is so young, they don't have a chance to have their own fun because now they have to take care of someone else. I mean, you know, did you get to go to the dance? No, I was home breastfeeding or, changing diapers or whatever it is. And I am grateful that we have parents like you who say kids are not having kids, right?
Yeah,
Because and I'm glad that the laws have changed, right?
definitely.
That because unfortunately there's still people who go to different countries to look for young kids, and it's a horrible, horrible thing. And it's interesting that your daughter was able to ask you these questions and not fear that the the repercussions of her questions, if you will. Right? And
Yeah,
that's because you had an open conversation with her. Or at least she knew that she could, right?
exactly. Yeah. And we've been able to maintain that type of relationship over the years. So today, is her 20th birthday. And I'm proud of the fact that we still can have those open conversations. And we're, always discovering or rediscovering our relationship, because now she's not a child anymore. She's a young adult. And so we are navigating the changes that come along with, okay, now this is a parent adult child relationship. And
Right?
so it's been awesome. And again, we have very transparent conversations. Sometimes I clutch my invisible pearls because I'm like, okay. Or she sets a boundary on certain things, and I'm just like, okay, I guess so. but I respect her for it.
yeah. So what made you decide to become a coach? Because
I felt,
you coached your daughter all along. And I love the fact that you journaled all the crazy questions she asked or questions that other kids were not asking. Um, and that's beautiful that you journaled it and then you turned it into a book.
Mhm.
But at what point did you decide I can use all of my skills from my professional life, from my own raising my own kids to help and be the kind of coach that you are?
I think the vision started to become clear about 5 years ago.
Mm.
But I would be honest with you, I was very comfortable in the job that I had. And I had the six-figure salary, the company car, all the benefits of working at a director level type position. And
Mm.
so I started to think it, and I would say a turning point happened during COVID. I was in September of 2021. I got COVID. I was hospitalized for 7 days. I was on oxygen for 3 months.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I had a pretty bad experience with it, but it was the first time I had sat down like in my whole adult life. Um, Literally, I have been consistently employed. I mean, I'm grateful for it, but I have been consistently employed from 19 years old back in '03 up until I left corporate America in 2023. No job gaps, no anything, right? And now I'm sitting down for 3 months on an oxygen tank to rebuild my body. And
Mm.
in that quietness, I really started in that hospital bed, really, I started to think, if I don't make it out of here, have I done everything that I was supposed to do?
Mm.
So in those couple of months, I started to really think about, am I living in my purpose? And I think for a while, with the confusion of who I am and what I do, I always assumed that I'm doing my purpose because it's to coach and develop people. And once I was able to sit down and really define who I am and what I do is two different things, I was able to realize that I was really limiting myself. I was limiting myself to one brand. My audience, the people that I'm designed to coach, to lead, to help and support, may not work at this at this location. So how will they get to me if I'm limiting myself to this location? So the thought started there, but the action still wasn't there because I didn't have the courage necessarily to leave the comfort.
Mhm.
Again, I'm a mother of four. I have a child who, at that time, she was graduating high school, going off to college. I have three more kids to go. So this is I have a long runway in terms of the responsibilities that come along with parenthood. How do you walk away from a six-figure salary to now build a new career? And so, fast forward to May of 2023, and my mental health had started to really suffer. I think I was dealing with some long COVID symptoms. I had a lot of cognitive issues that started. Thank God they're now healed. But in
Mm.
that moment, I was dealing a lot with my short term memory recall and different things. Again, just a part of the recovery process, along with being exposed to toxic work environment. And
Mm.
so you combine those things along with this inner knowing that I'm supposed to be doing more.
Mm.
And so when the opportunity presented itself, I took the leap and I decided that I needed to be as courageous as the people that I coach. I needed to dig back into the person I had been my whole life. I was the person that didn't go to the high school in the neighborhood. I was the person that went away for college. I was the person that didn't drop out of college because I got pregnant the first or the second time. I was the person that took the job that many wouldn't take. So I had been that person my whole life, and somewhere I had gotten comfortable or afraid to do that. And so, about a year and a half ago, I made that decision to be who I am. I'm that person. And so I took that level of just courageousness and tenacity, and I decided that I have a long runway, and I'm going to step out on faith, and I will rebuild I will build my career, the career that I know that I'm purposed to have, and
Mm.
I will help the people that I know that are out there for me to support.
Wow. When you were in that bed and you had that thought, if I make it out of here, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because that you can probably say that was a defining moment for you.
Oh, it definitely was. Definitely defining moment. And I'm so surprised that it took me so long to take action, even in that defining moment. Because again, you still have the realities of the world. Like I still have a mortgage, I still have a child I'm sending to college, so I have to think about how I'm going to do this. But I knew it was coming. It was a matter of putting the right plan and the timing together to make it happen. But it was definitely coming.
And then you're 3 months with oxygen. Wow.
Treatment, yeah.
Wow. What were your thoughts there? Did you think that was, I can understand maybe you're there like first week, second week, third week, fourth week. You're like, whoa, when am I gonna stop this? When am I gonna get back to normal? How was that like?
Yeah. You had. I had those moments. Again, I'm thankful for a mindset that's always hopeful.
Mm.
So I really rest in hope. Now I have the moments where I definitely will worst case scenario everything, and then I bring myself back to the other opportunities and possibilities. If you're gonna dream a dream, don't dream a nightmare. You know, like if I'm gonna sit here and imagine some things, why
Yeah.
imagine the worst, right? And so I think that for me, I viewed it as a time to rebuild my body. Like I'm rebuilding my body. Don't get anxious in this. I had times where I would come off the oxygen and spend a few hours, and then I'll find myself gasping a little bit. I'm like, okay, so now I can go 2 hours without it. Right. And then I put it back on, and and then the next day we'll try it off again. And then I find myself going half the day. And so for me, it was just a mindset of I'm going to test this every day until I get back to normal, because there was no other option. Like I was going to get back to normal. Like that was my mindset. I didn't consider it to be a forever thing. I got out of that hospital and I already knew it was a road to recovery.
Nice, nice. That's it, the positive thinking, right? That
Yeah.
I'm not stuck here. There's look, there's a shovel in this cave. I can get out. I just got to dig, right?
Exactly. And that's always been my personality. And so I've had moments where sometimes I forget that about myself. And it's good to be reminded. It's good to be reminded sometimes of everything that I've overcome. All the times where I thought it was the end, and it wasn't. It's another thing that I've journaled. And so in the future, I'll just tag it down here. You'll be the first person to really have this information. But one of my books that will be coming out is called Messy Glory. And Messy Glory is about all those moments where it just looked like everything was going wrong. And then God showed up.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Because how, when we consider when things go wrong,
Hmm.
many people need to blame someone.
Oh, definitely. We're definitely in a blame culture. Somebody's going to be responsible, right?
But when people don't see a person, they blame God, right?
That's true.
They say, why have you not been there for me? Why are you putting me through this? And there's so many different stories that we can get into of, one of the ones that I love is God, why are you making me swim in this shark infested water?
Uh-huh.
And the saying goes, because your enemies don't know how to swim. So
I
if
love
you
it.
think about that, this way you can get through it. We know you can, right? It might be tough. It might be, there may be things that are going to be very scary. But as long as you do your due diligence, you will come out. You will become victorious. But you have to go through it. Sometimes when we ask why, that's when we get into the negativity thinking. Right?
Hmm.
So a lot of times for example, I train people. And sometimes when they go, oh, this is so hard, so painful. I'm like, oh, you're in pain? Yeah, this hurts. I'm like, congratulations, you're alive. You feel it.
You feel it, right?
You're alive. Congratulations. And then they laugh, right? And like, that's it. That's it. Have an attitude of saying, this is a stepping stone so I can get to the other side. Right? Or
Yeah,
this
and
is a
we talk
to climb,
in
right?
our field, we talk about like that growth mindset versus having a fixed mindset. And it's that ability to see beyond our current circumstances. And when I think about sometimes, you talk about the shark infested waters, but think about when we ask for more patience or we ask for more strength, and we think that God kind of comes and pour patience in us. And what he really does is create situations that allow us to demonstrate patience. And that's how you gain more patience. And I think sometimes we get confused by that. No, sometimes we're getting what we prayed for. It doesn't necessarily look the way we think. And in character building, that's kind of how it happens. You don't necessarily get patience poured over you. You get circumstances that require patience, and now you have to exercise those muscles, and that's how you build that characteristic. And so oftentimes when I'm coaching, I remind people of those type of circumstances of, hey, earlier in our conversations, you said that you wanted to be this, and this. And now as we're going through this, you just gave me an excellent scenario in which you could have exercised the muscle of this, and this. So
Yes. Some people don't realize sometimes what they're asking for.
yeah, definitely.
It's that old saying is like, watch out what you ask for because you may get
Exactly.
you may
Hmm.
get it. It's not exactly like you said. It's not exactly in the color you wanted it, or the image that you were looking for. When you consider your life, we went from your early on with your grandma. You saw things that made you really think. You went to a different high school. You were in a car accident early on in high school.
Hmm.
You chose 5 different majors. You almost went back to law school. Things changed. You went through different career aspects. But then COVID hit you.
Oh yeah.
Would you have done anything different if you could, without any negative repercussions, let's say?
Without negative. No. Every job, every situation, all of it matters. It all led to the knowledge that I have today, the experiences I'm able to share with others. Every working position, I remember thinking, oh, it's taking me so long to get to this next level. No, no, all of it was strategically designed in place for a time as now. I'm excited about the things that I'm able to share with others, and I just think if I take away any of it, um, I may not have the same, some. I may not be exactly where I am today. All of that needed to happen, all of those experiences.
Yeah, the experiences are the fabric of your life, if you will, right?
Exactly. So, no, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. You wouldn't be who you are if you did, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I couldn't imagine it differently, to be honest with you. Yeah, would I have done a little bit different things with maybe some money or investments, or if I knew that stock was going to do that kind of situation? Yeah, there's a couple things there, but everything has been so strategically designed. Even again in the last year leading up for to me leaving corporate America, I hated some of the things that I experienced. But what I would tell you is I learned a lot about myself in those experiences. And I really think that I needed the right climate in order to jump, because it was comfortable. It was easier. It felt good for a very long time. And so I needed the right circumstances to provoke me. It's almost like You wouldn't jump from the fifth floor of a building on a normal day, but if it's on fire, you'll jump. And so I needed the right set of circumstances to add up to say, you know what? I don't care how much you're making. I don't care how stable it feels. You need to take the leap so that you can build the life that you're supposed to be living.
You know, I've heard a lot of coaches and people say, "Hey, you know what? If I have to, I'll jump off a cliff and build an airplane on the way down, or I'll build a parachute on the way down." But I just think that's bad planning, right? So I think that before I jump off a cliff, I need to know that I'm going to survive, right? Because I normally would not jump off a cliff. So a lot of times we take actions as not knowing what the outcome is. And that's I think that's what is innovation, right? Sometimes we go into it blindly, but we have faith that if we do take these actions, that I will come out good on the other side, that this business venture will work, that this engagement that I'm getting into will bear fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you decided, yes, I have a cushy job. Oh, there's my thumb up. I don't know how that happened, but my thumb came up. You have a cushy job, um, but then you realized I need to fulfill my purpose. I need to, and when you said your purpose is people, right? Because we talked earlier,
Yeah.
and people matter, right? Because people, I think that's your jam, if you will, right?
Yes.
That you can impact people's lives through your coaching, through the way you interact with them, through the smile you have, right?
Thank
Through
you.
your heart, through your actions, through the words you say, right? So tell me, when somebody goes to your website, um, how do you, I want to say your last name right, Shazier, right?
Shazier, yes.
Shazier. So
Mm-hmm.
DorisJackson-Shazier.com, right? And by the
Yes.
way, I want to thank everybody who has given us a heart: Arletta Allen, Monique McKinnon Parker, Brandy Lorick, and Dontavius Shazier. Is that your husband or your son?
That's my husband. That's my
Okay.
husband. Well, my husband and my son have the same name, but that's my husband. So thank you.
Yeah. So thank everybody for joining us and letting us share your story with the world. Thank you for sharing your story with the world. I think that people like you who care, who want to make a difference, and we don't have to change a million lives, but if we change
No.
one life, right? That one life can change a million. That one life can change 500 million. But we have to start with one. Who's the most important person in the room? I always ask the kids, right, when I teach a class, and they all say, "You." I'm like, "No, I'm not the most important person in the room. You are." And then another kid goes, "I am." I'm like, "Yes, yes, you are the most important person." And we forget that. Sometimes we're helping so many people, especially as a parent. We forget that we need to take care of us first and to be the best version of us to help others. We're wrapping
Definitely.
it up. So tell me, how do you become the best version of you?
How do I become the best version of me?
Yeah.
Self care.
Mm.
Self care. So I focus a lot on, again, feeding myself with words of inspiration, making sure I take care of the things that make me feel good and happy. And I travel often.
There you go.
I have a
Traveling.
good balance between work and play.
Uh-huh. Do you travel for business, or do you travel for both, for pleasure?
Both, both. But I like to balance it out, and I love to have a vacation always on the books. I think it's very, very healthy, especially people working in leadership roles.
Mhm.
Keep a vacation on the books. Something to look forward to.
So let me ask you, because for me, no matter where I am in the world, I see something, I'm like, oh, I gotta register that. Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta put that into my facility. Or I gotta do. Do you do the same, even when you're on leisure vacation?
I do, because you get inspiration anywhere. And so I find myself always with a notepad or I jot things in my calendar. But yeah, you find inspiration everywhere. So I'm often journaling, taking mental notes, adding things to my calendar um, as I become inspired.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Doris, thank you. Thank you. This has been great. And I hope that you come on my other shows as well. As you know, I have 6 shows and just having a blast getting to meet people who make a difference. And you, my friend, and I'm happy to be able to call you that, are an exceptional human being. So thank you again for being here with us. Do me a favor,
Thank
hang
you
out
so
for a minute.
much.
Hang out for a minute, and we're going to say goodbye to everybody.
All
Everybody
right.
have yourself an exceptional day. Doris, you too.
Thank you.